one quote that I live by, like after this all happened, is if it doesn't challenge you, it won't change you. And I think it's just taught me you're so much stronger than your mind, and you've just got to keep pushing and don't ever give up. Like, it's okay to have shitty days and stuff like that, but just pull yourself out of that. And it's taught me to don't let other people predict what your future is going to look like, because they're wrong.
This is the Recovery After Stroke podcast with Bill Gassiamis, helping you navigate recovery after stroke.
Hello and welcome back to the Recovery After Stroke podcast. This is episode 235 and my guest today is Kristin Taylor, who was only 21 when she experienced 2 ischemic strokes on the Amsterdam leg of a European trip in 2014. Her tenacity and rebellious spirit has proven to be very beneficial as she continues to overcome the limitations of her body, proving her doubters wrong along the way. Kristin Taylor, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Hey, fellow Aussie from Wollongong. I love Wollongong.
Yep.
Beautiful, beautiful part of the world. Thanks for being on the show. Tell me a little bit about what happened to you.
So I was 21 at the time, traveling, doing Europe with my friends, and previously to this trip I had been a really bad migraine sufferer. Went to a number of neurologists, and no one could really pinpoint why they were happening and stuff like that. I used to always get cluster migraines where I'd have 3 days off work. Sometimes I'd get the whole lose my vision, everything like that, get the really bad headache and then throw up and everything. So and leading up to this trip, I don't know, you can say I was a little bit stressed. I was a little bit of a stress head. And I had a few migraines where now we look back at it and think they could have been TIAs. They were really bad where I completely would lose my vision. I actually had pins and needles down my face one time, but was just like, whatever, no one can solve this. Like, it's just hereditary. I just get migraines. I have to get used to it. They prescribed this medicine. It was called Maxol. And I used to take that. It never used to help. Panadol never used to help. Nurofen. I ended up, I couldn't take anything with codeine in it. That was kind of the only thing that helped. But then the neurologists figured out that what was happening, I was taking the codeine when I'd get a migraine. It would knock me out, take away the pain. But then the next day I would get another migraine so that I would give my body more codeine. Had quite a few bad ones before I went overseas. And then I had a little bit of a turn when we were in London visiting one of my friend's family members. And I just said, something doesn't feel right. I almost had like vertigo. I just was off balance. I was feeling sick. I was just really, really exhausted. And that lasted probably about 3 days. And then anyway, we were traveling. We're in Amsterdam. And I used to also get migraines when I'd be hungover, obviously, with all the artificial stuff in drinks and everything like that. So we, the day before I had the strokes, I had a really bad migraine, was throwing up and everything like that. But then my friends, obviously being overseas, wanted to go out, and we went out for the night. And I just said to them, I just don't feel right. Like, I've still got a really bad headache. I still feel really sick and everything like that. And then one of my friends, she just said, come on, let's go. We'll go back to the apartment. And and then we were back at the apartment together, and she just looked at me and she said, are you okay? And I said, yeah, I feel a little bit funny. I'm going to get up, going to go to the toilet. And for some reason, she followed me. And then when I came out of the toilet, I just said to her, I feel like I'm going to faint. And then I obviously quickly laid down on the floor and she lifted my legs up and everything. And I just looked at her and I said, I don't want to scare you, but all down my right side of my body, I've just got these really, really intense pins and needles. Like, you know, when your arm goes to sleep and like you just can't shake the pins and needles and they hurt. Like, so this was happening. You just would have drawn a line down my body and the whole right side was just gone, just pins and needles. And anyway, she got me up. We sat on the lounge and I think without us even noticing, I stopped using obviously my right side. So the two clots that I had, the first one, they were both on the left side of the brain, which affected my right side. And then I started to get the really bad headache. And then I started to feel really sick. So almost similar to how I used to get my migraines and everything, but obviously had the pins and needles and everything, which was different. So she just like kept monitoring and everything. And then my other friends came back from their night out. And I think everyone was just kind of trying to play it cool. And I'm very, I don't know, if I have to go to hospital, something seriously is wrong and that scares me. So I avoid, which I did in this situation. We were just all hanging around in the lounge room and my friends were just saying to me, you know, like, if you want to go to hospital, just let us know. We'll call an ambulance, all of that stuff. So we just waited probably about 2 hours and I was obviously starting to panic a little bit because the pins and needles weren't going away. I just kept wanting to vomit. The pain in my head was just getting excruciating. And then, yeah, we made the call to call an ambulance. Obviously, being in Amsterdam, they were like young girls, probably drink spiking, drugs, whatever. So they weren't really that nice when they picked us up. So got me in an ambulance, and then we're in emergency. Got sent for a CT scan, and then as I was in hospital, I started to become really disorientated. I was getting confused. I started to lose my speech. And that in itself was so frustrating. Like, I can't explain that to anyone. Like, they were asking me what day it was, and I would say something, but then this like gibberish would just come out, and it was so frustrating for me. And then the nurses still were just kind of being really horrible. And my best friend at the time, she just looked at the nurse and she said, "Are you sure my friend's not having a stroke?" I've like, because she had watched her dad prior to coming overseas, watched her dad have a stroke. Wow. And the nurse just looked at my friends and said, "You girls need to calm down. Your friend is not having a stroke. Just sit down and be quiet." And then anyway, so they left us down in emergency. If they did think it was drink spiking or whatever, they didn't give me any fluids. They didn't put me on a drip. They didn't like give me any painkillers, nothing. And then eventually, I think it was like close to 10 hours later, they put me up in the ward. And the head neurologist, he came and did the rounds the next day. So I was still in the same clothes from the night before, hadn't had any fluids, hadn't had any water, like nothing. And then, yeah, the head neurologist came around, and first thing he did, he got me to sit up in the bed. And he went to shake my hand, and without even noticing, I gave him my left hand instead of my right. And he just looked at me and he said, "Why didn't you give me your right hand?" And I said, "Oh, I don't know. It just didn't work." And he said, "Okay." And then he goes, "All right, close your eyes." I was like, "All right." And then anyway, he goes, lift your left arm up. Lifted my left arm up, fine. And then he said, lift your right arm up. And then he repeated himself. He's like, lift your right arm up. I'm like, I can't. And then he said, okay. He's like, stand up with me. I said, I can't. So he helped me stand up. And then he's like, okay. He's like, how's your head feeling? I'm like, excruciating. It's really, really killing me. And he's like, and then he did the sensation test where they run that horrible thing under your foot and everything like that, which was horrible. And I just explained to him the sensation that I was having down the right side of my body. And I said, it's horrible. Like, I just want to get rid of these pins and needles. And he said, okay. And then he just looked at his team and he said, it's almost 24 hours later. Why has this girl not gone for an MRI yet? So then anyway, panic, obviously. My friends, they left the hospital. They went home to shower and everything like that. I went to get my MRI, which was for somebody, you just can't explain it, for somebody that can't actually move their right side of their body and has these pins and needles, just laying still for that amount of time and having that anxiety of like, what the hell is going on? It was just horrible. It was like I was in that MRI machine for like hours and just couldn't wait for it to be over. And then the nurses wheeled me back into the room, and within, it was about an hour, the head neurologist came back and he said, oh, where are your friends? And I said, oh, they're just off showering. They'll be back soon. And he said, okay, we'll just wait until they get back. So obviously being on my own, I was just like, something seriously wrong. And I was just like, oh my gosh. And then my friends came back, and God bless them, they had come up with a complete plan of what we were going to do. They're like, when you're better, we're going to go here. We're just going to chill at like my family friend's house in London, like trying to be all positive. And I'm just like, no, something seriously wrong, because the neurologist wouldn't talk to me on my own. And then anyway, he came back when they were there. And he just said, look, I'm extremely sorry. You have had an ischemic stroke. You've got a massive clot. And I kind of just was in shock. And I had one friend, she just walked out of the room. I had another one on the end of the bed just crying. And then I had the other two just like, what the hell? And I just burst into tears. And the head neurologist just said, like, we need to take this extremely seriously. He's like, I know your friends are here with you, but we need to get in contact with immediate family now, and we need to get someone over here. So he kind of just said, I'll give you a minute, and then we'll come back and we'll have a chat and everything. So yeah, we were all obviously blubbering messes. I was just, everything was running through my head, just going, oh my gosh, like, I'm like this for the rest of my life. I'm like, yeah, I didn't even know what to think. And there was a point there that I was like, I'm going to get emotional. But like with the pins and needles and everything, I thought, if they're there for the rest of my life, I don't even want to be here. Like, that's no way of living. Like, it was just horrible. And then, yeah, anyway, my friend obviously contacted my mum and was just like, everything's okay. But Kristen's just had a stroke. And my mum was just like,
everything's not okay.
What do you, yeah. She's like, what do you mean she's had a stroke? Like, is she, and she just explained the situation and everything. And then obviously that day, my family got things rolling and everything. The hospital was really good. The head neurologist spoke to my mum and just said, like, you know, we need someone. You can't both come over here, because we need someone in Sydney organising everything, organising all appointments for when I'd get back and everything like that. And then anyway, well, she was in the air coming over, they ended up moving me into a private room on my own. It was a completely different story. The nurses and the doctors and everything that were really harsh prior to that, they all were fussing. They were like, "We're so sorry. What happened?" Like, and I was disgusted with like the care that they gave me prior to knowing what was wrong. And they even came around to like shower me, to wheel me into the like shower. And I just said, no, I don't want you to touch me. Like, I'd prefer if my friends can shower me and everything like that. And then, yeah, when I got moved into the private room the next day, I thought I was having another migraine attack, but the symptoms that would usually occur with my migraines, they were all out of whack. So I would usually lose my vision first. I would get the headache and then I would vomit. Where with this time round, I felt sick first and went to throw up. And as I went to throw up, I got the headache, like really bad shooting pain on the left side of my head again. And then quite a lot of my vision went, and it wasn't usually when I'd get my migraines, it would be almost like pixelated, where this time the vision on my right side was just gone. And I was like, okay, that's not normal. And then my friend said she's got medication that she usually takes when she has these migraine attacks. Can we go get it? And the doctor said, yeah, go get it. We'll have a look at it. So anyway, when I got that, the doctors had a look at that. They took one look at it and they said, no, she should have never, ever been prescribed this, because this actually, my type of migraines, obviously the arteries are tightening and that's why I would lose a vision, where apparently this medication would do the same thing. So it was making it worse. Yeah. So that was interesting. And so no wonder why it never did anything, because it was actually making it worse. So anyway, they left us alone for a bit. And my sister, she was traveling in Southeast Asia at the time, and she called me because she hadn't heard from me for 2 days. And she knew that something was wrong. And when I spoke to her, I was obviously going through this, having a little bit of a turn, didn't even remember talking to her. And at that point, she was like, I need to get over there. Like, and anyway, the head neurologist came back 8 hours later and he said, how are you feeling? And I said, my head is killing me. And he said, okay, how's your vision? And I said, no, my vision's still gone. And he said, okay, it's been 8 hours now. We'll send you for another MRI. So, and by this point, this is 2 days in hospital. So I was already on the heavy blood thinners, getting the injections, like everything. And yeah, they sent me for another MRI. And then in between that, my mum had arrived. So my friends could go back to the hotel and chill and everything. And gosh, the poor thing, she was in all sorts. She was, just an emotional wreck, and she was jet lagged. She was so tired and everything like that. But when she got there, the head neurologist came around and said, look, we're really, really sorry. You've actually had another stroke.
In that time.
So if I didn't have the second one, my vision would have been fine. So I would have, I had obviously lost like my mobility on my right side and everything like that. I lost the sensation on my right side, but my vision up until that second one was completely fine. So you can imagine my mum was just like, how did you miss this? Like, how could you not? And the head neurologist was just like, she's young, she's 21, like she wasn't showing like the typical signs, like she could still, how everyone says if you're testing someone for having a stroke, get them to poke their tongue out, get them to do this. I could still do that. So I'm like, that's not always
And
always
you're
the
a
case. My
tourist,
face
and
only
you're a
like dropped.
tourist. You're in a
Yeah,
country where it's known for
yeah,
people traveling to go and get high and stoned and all that kind of stuff. You know, the bloody tourist who's turned up sick to the hospital.
100%.
Everything kind of fits the picture of
Yeah,
another bloody tourist, you know, and it's really hard
yeah,
for them
yeah,
because they've got to separate the tourist in their mindset from the sick patient, and always assuming that it's a stroke is probably the wrong thing to do, but never assuming it's a stroke is also the wrong thing to do. And you know, that's the thing, like, and maybe they were on the 14th hour of their shift, and god knows what was going wrong. You just became unlucky with the way it all turned out. And now
yeah.
what's really interesting to me is how vividly you are telling the story and how well you're sharing like every single detail. Does it feel like it just happened yesterday? It seems like it's just so fresh. And I know it was in 2014. What's it like for you 9 years later to be sharing the story in this way?
It's, I don't know. It's, yeah, I'm like, I was really nervous about coming on here because I didn't know how I would feel. But then, like, I love telling my story because I
Mm,
love inspiring other people, especially young people. And yeah, it does honestly just feel like yesterday. But I think, yeah, I'm happy to share my
mm.
story just because
Okay,
I
cool.
really, really want, yeah, people to know that they're not alone. And you're not. I think the hardest part for me was the head neurologist. He just, I don't know, my family are very, very positive, and we try and make light out of a crappy
Mm,
situation. And
mm.
you can say this is a pretty crappy situation.
Oh yeah.
So, like, we were even, um, I obviously was learning how to eat again and
Mm-hmm.
everything like that. I went to OT once my sister had got over there, and my mum just said, "Can you go to OT with her?" And it was the first OT session. And they said, "Okay, pick up a pen and write your name." And I didn't even think of that. So I was kind of, I guess I was more fascinated with what was going on
Mm.
with my body than really concentrating on what was actually happening.
What you couldn't do. I
Um,
like that though. That's really interesting to be fascinated about what's happening to your body rather than worried about what's not happening. I think
yeah,
it's a real
yeah,
good shift in your mindset.
yeah. And the more doctors said things to me, the more it pushed me to go against what they said, if that makes sense. So they, first thing they said to me, all right, what do you want to do with your writing? Do you want to train your left side, or do you want to retrain your right side? And I just looked at them and I'm like, are you kidding? I'm like, I'm just going to retrain my right side. I'm not going to like learn how to use my left hand now, like, and everything. And yeah, and same thing, like the head neurologist came around and we were having a good laugh. I think we were testing myself. We were eating peas or something, and like my hand just had a mind of its own. Obviously, I lost the vision, so I've lost my hand-eye coordination. I'm sitting in the hospital bed with a spoonful of peas, and literally peas have gone everywhere. And it just so happened we're having a good laugh about this, and then the head neurologist comes in and sits down, and we're just like, oh, like making a good old joke. Oh, she just peed all over the floor, like with the peas and everything. And then he was just like, you know, this is a really serious situation. Like you're like this for the rest of your life. And he goes, what do you do for a job? And at the time, I was working with children with autism, quite high behaviors, quite demanding on the body and everything like that. And he said, yeah, you're not going to go back to that. When you go back to Sydney, you're going to have to change jobs. You'll probably be walking with a walking frame or a walking stick, and all of that. And I just looked at him and I said, how do I get out of hospital? When can I get out? And he said, oh, let's just take one day at a time. And I said, no, like, what will it take for me to be able to leave here?
If you've had a stroke and you're in recovery, you'll know what a scary and confusing time it can be. You're likely to have a lot of questions going through your mind. Like, how long will it take to recover? Will I actually recover? What things should I avoid in case I make matters worse? Doctors will explain things, but obviously you've never had a stroke before. You probably don't know what questions to ask. If this is you, you may be missing out on doing things that could help speed up your recovery. If you're finding yourself in that situation, stop worrying and head to recoveryafterstroke.com, where you can download a guide that will help you. It's called 7 Questions to Ask Your Doctor About Your Stroke. These 7 questions are the ones Bill wished he'd asked when he was recovering from a stroke. They'll not only help you better understand your condition, they'll help you take a more active role in your recovery. Head to the website now, recoveryafterstroke.com, and download the guide. It's free.
Because I was just so off him then. Once he said that, I was just like, stuff you. I love my job, like, and I'm not giving that up. Like, so anyway, he said, once you can walk for a minute, then we can think about getting you out of hospital. And I just said, okay, all right, no worries. So anyway, that day I just said to Mum, I was like, get me in the wheelchair, get me downstairs, take me outside. I do not want to be in this hospital, and I won't come back until they need me for like OT, physio, anything like that. So we just, every day they'd take me down in the wheelchair. We'd, just go for walks around Amsterdam with me in the wheelchair and everything like that. And then, the day came where they were just like, okay, you have to walk for a minute. And people on here will think like a minute is nothing. Oh, and man. I was just, I pushed myself so hard. My arm would just sit up like this and I'd just drag my right leg, and I walked for that minute nonstop, and I was so sick. I was just throwing up so much after it. Like, my head was pounding, and that just did me for the day. But after that, they were like, so that was 2 weeks. And they were like, okay, as long as you've got they obviously checked if we had like cardiologists booked in, if we had neurologist appointments all booked in back at Sydney. We had to get health insurance to organise all of the flight home. The nurse, I had a nurse with me to fly all the way home, to come all the way to the front door with me.
Wow.
And everything. And they let us out. So by this time, my sister as well, she flew back, continued on her holiday. But then my mum and I, we were just at a hotel near the hospital for, I think it was an extra week, just while they organised like the nurses and everything like that.
Where were your friends in the meantime? Because they're on a holiday.
Yeah, so they were in two worlds, and they were just obviously trying to be good friends, and they're like, we don't want to stay where, and my mum just looked at them and said, you know what, you need to continue your holiday. It's not now that she needs you, it's further down the track that she needs you. Wow. So they continued on. They went to sail Croatia and all of that stuff, and then I just saw them obviously when I got home. But yeah.
Wow, that would have been hard. Was that hard for you? You're laying in hospital there, leaving, going to the next leg of the trip?
Yeah, extremely hard. But as well, I think I was just extremely, although things happened the way that they did, I was extremely grateful that I wasn't on the next part of the trip, because the next part of the trip was sail Croatia. knowing me, I probably would have been hungover. I probably would have put myself in a room on the boat, and things could have ended up a lot
Far worse.
worse than, yeah, because I mean, after things did come through and we knew what was going on, the doctors and the nurses obviously had a complete turnaround, and they were really good. The only thing that we didn't, the pain threshold apparently in Amsterdam is completely different. So the whole time they had morphine on standby for me. And I just kept saying, like, pain is at a 10. And they're like, okay, here's more Panadol, here's some
Oh,
Nurofen.
wow.
And it wasn't until like I think it was like the ninth day in hospital, and this lovely nurse, he came in and he said, do you understand our pain threshold? Because, like, I'm reading your body and thinking, nah, there's no way this girl is a 10. And he's just like, one is actually our worst with pain. So he's like, we've had morphine on standby for you this whole time, and you've
Shit.
just been taking Panadol. I'm like, oh my gosh. So,
And
yeah,
10 is
that
the
was,
worst for
yeah.
us in Australia. 10 is the worst pain you've ever had in
Yeah.
your life. And you're
Yeah.
saying 10
Yeah.
and they're going 1. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Which, just looking at me, you would have been able to see I was just, yeah, I've never ever had pain like that in my life. Like,
That's crazy. What's it like landing back home after you've been on such a dramatic, life-threatening, problematic situation so far away from home with nobody around you until they finally got there? Like, what's it like coming home?
that still makes me tear up. That was such an emotional, like, even like before going home, the nurse obviously had to come to the hotel and she had to meet me and she had to test everything out and explain everything that needed to happen on the flight and go through all of that. And even then, the day she came to see me, she goes, you need to calm down. She's like, your heart rate is through the roof. And I was like, I know. I'm like, I just want to get home. And because everybody was so drained, like with the time difference, like trying to call dad and get him to organize everything, like was just, yeah. So the nurse, she actually came all the way home with us. So it was just such a big emotional, like, experience, because we pulled up in the driveway and dad was obviously there. And yeah, and even the nurse, like, she walked me up to the front door and we were just all, all crying, like,
Mm.
but it was just, yeah. And I was like, I was ruined. I was so, like, just being on the plane and everything was just, but yeah, just touching back down in Australia and just getting home to like Sydney and getting home to like my own like house was just, yeah, a breath of fresh air. And just like, oh my gosh, like, I can't believe what has just happened. Like, my mum, she will still, memories pop up on Facebook of like the day we were coming home, and she's always like, oh my gosh, I could still cry. Like, and we often have like little moments where we just, yeah, we'll both cry and
Raw.
everything like that. But it was just, yeah, it was an amazing feeling getting back home. And because it changed everyone. Like, even
Yeah.
my dad was working at the time, and him and mum kind of took turns. So my dad, who very rarely took time off work, was, yeah, he took, I think it was about a month off, and he took the responsibility of pretty much being my carer,
Mm.
taking me to all my rehab appointments. We'd go do the coal shop together. That was part of my rehab, learning to walk with a trolley and
The supermarket.
everything like that. Yeah, yeah, and just getting out, around in those surroundings and
Mm.
stuff. Yeah, which was amazing. My family were just great.
What was the underlying cause of the blood clots? Did they work that out?
So they ended up, a neurologist back in Sydney. He said the contraceptive pill, and then the type of migraines that I used to get. So obviously from the contraceptive pill, I was getting the migraines, which, touch wood, since I've had the strokes and have not touched any form of contraception, I have not even had one migraine. And now it's really funny because you talk to people, you talk to females, there's obviously enough studies now. And I've had, I think 2 people I've known have gone to a neurologist and said, I'm getting migraines. First thing they do, take you off the pill. So, yeah.
It's I know the back of the box that has all the side effects and all that says stroke in one of them, and in the other one, there's a whole bunch of other symptoms, right? Like of what can happen if you take the contraceptive pill. When you decided to go on birth control, which is a really smart decision for a lot of people to do, right? You think you're being proactive and you're doing it. Were you aware of the risk of stroke? And was there no moment where you went, I never had migraines before then. I started taking this thing and now I have migraines. Did you connect the dots at all? Was there any idea? Did you have any awareness of any of the side effects?
God, no. No. And the frustrating part too, I'm so frustrated at myself because I didn't even really need to be on it when I was on it. But because I had obviously found one that worked with my body, I was just like, I'm not even going to go off it. But originally, when I was younger and when I first started on it, I was just, the stuff that it did to my body, I just wish that was enough to go, nah, look at what this can do to your body. That's it. Yeah. But I had a neurologist in Sydney and he was extremely funny because they always say, bring all the medications you take and everything like that. And he wouldn't even touch the pill box. He was just like, I think, a bit funny about that. So that wasn't even, we just did a food diary. I eliminated, I love chocolate and I eliminated chocolate for a year. We found out that was a trigger. I couldn't have tomatoes, couldn't have processed food, all that stuff like alcohol, all those triggers. But no one ever said anything about the contraceptive pill.
That's ridiculous. I love the fact that you're 21 and you've handed him a contraceptive pill and he's unfortunately gone and done the dad thing and he's probably thinking of why is he's doing all that stuff and he's going, I can't even talk about it. I'll just ignore it. I'll pretend it never happened. He's probably got a daughter your age and thinking it could just as easily be my daughter. He was freaking out. He didn't know what to do.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
I love it. Absolutely love it. So you've overcome those initial couple of years. What did they teach you about yourself? It would have been hard and you would have had to go on through, as a 21-year-old, some of the hardest days of your life. You're just fresh out of school, just starting to explore the world, spread your wings, sort of discovering what's out there. Then you get stuck in this situation. What does it teach you about yourself?
Like, prime example, the head neurologist, you're going to be like this for the rest of your life. I had a physio that said I was inspired by my sister who used to do bodybuilding, and they said, oh, you with all your issues, like, you'll never be able to do that. So straight away, I was like, nah, right, that's it. Like, once I finished my rehab, everything like that, I was, into the gym, and I'm coming up to like my 3rd season of competing in a bodybuilding comp. And so you just, I guess it's, just taught me you're a lot stronger than what you think. And if you believe you can overcome it, you 100% can, and you should never, ever, ever doubt yourself.
Yeah, I agree. So what are you dealing with now? It's been 9 years. Have the vision returned? Do you have deficits on that right side still? What's that situation like?
So you can literally draw a line down the middle of my body, and my right side, the way I explain it, because as soon as I say numb, everyone's like, what, you can't feel me pinching you, or you can't feel this? And I was like, no, I can. So when you go to the dentist and you get a numbing needle, and you can still kind of feel your face, but it's that weird sensation. So I've got that all down the right side of my body. And obviously, like, some points on my right side are a little hypersensitive to others. So I do need to be mindful, like with hot water or anything like that, that can sometimes catch me off guard, because on my left hand it won't feel too bad, but then on my right it may. I've got, so the vision on my right side never ever came back. So it's like, the way to explain it, it's the top quarter of my eye on the right side, and then a little bit of the bottom quarter. And then obviously, like with my right hand, they always say like your fine motor is a lot harder than your gross motor. So my right hand often seizes up or it twitches a lot, and I find that happens quite a lot when I'm really, really stressed. Yeah, apart from that, everything is, yeah, pretty good. I'm fitter than I've ever been. I hated the gym prior to the strokes, like previous to the strokes, and now I just love it. I find if I don't go to the gym, my body will not shut down, but I can kind of see the right side like struggling a little bit. It also, I have primary lymphedema in my lower legs, which is swelling, and my lymphatic channel doesn't work properly. And I actually, with the strokes, I set it off in my right arm as well, because I was obviously doing everything I could to try and get like the sensation back in my arm. I was getting acupuncture. I started doing boxing for rehab for coordination, and that triggered, unfortunately, the swelling in that arm. But yeah,
Right.
apart from that, I think we just pushed really, really hard, because one person said to me when we got back to Sydney, whatever you're left with after 12 months, that's probably going to be permanent. So that 12 months is crucial. And then another family friend who had experienced a stroke, he just said, look at me. He's like, push yourself, because if you don't use it, you'll lose it. Like, it'll stop. Yeah.
Not everything's permanent. There's a lot of reasons why people have deficits. Sometimes it's a learnt deficit where, remember you said at the beginning, you said, do you want to just learn to write with your left hand? That whole situation, if you had gone, let's learn with my left hand, you may never have learnt to write with your right hand again. And that's a learnt experience. That's you expecting your hand not to work and it doesn't. Whereas other people will have the connection completely gone from that part of the brain. So that's why they can't write. It's a very different version of why they can't write, and it may not get better. It may retrain to some extent, but it may therefore be easier for them to just swap hands and learn how to write with the other hand. The reason I asked you about what you're left with is because I know you go to the gym, and it's something that I've avoided, because my left side, you described my left side when you described your right side. It's exactly the same. And my left side fatigues so quickly that if I'm pushing a barbell above my head, it feels unsafe on my left side, because my right side wants to keep going forever, and my left side's going, we're done after 2 or 3 reps. So because it's so uncomfortable, I've always got to overthink it. I just got sick of it. I said, stuff it, I'm not doing that. and of course I won't do bench press or anything like that. Now I'll use, machines that are, electronic sort of assisted machines, the ones that are not free weights. And I noticed on Instagram, on your very most recent post, you've got a strap around your right wrist holding the row bar. Is that because you can't grasp it properly? Why do you have the strap?
Yeah, I find I use straps because I feel my wrist on this side just isn't as strong, and it will often. I don't know whether it's because of my vision too, as well. I do have to be really careful of my right arm because it will often flare out, and I have to be really mindful of that or get someone to help me at the gym. But I mean, I've absolutely worked my ass off. Like with that, I worked very, very closely with a personal trainer after my rehab and everything like that. Even last year, I was working with another personal trainer who's become a best friend, and we used to do 3 sessions a week. And and I need to be in front of a mirror. I'm very specific with how I train.
So you can look at your form, yeah? Is that why?
Yeah, because I've got the vision missing. If I'm doing any weights or anything, I can't see my right arm as soon as it goes out of there. So I need a mirror in front of me. Yeah. I'm very things on like my right side, like lunges and everything like that. I'm very off balance, and that becomes frustrating. But that's a goal of mine this year, to kind of push through that and get on top of that. But
I imagine, like, when you look at your Insta, it's very inspiring, by the way, the fact that you've overcome all of that stuff. You're competing in bodybuilding competitions. You can tell the amount of work that you've put in. And I look at those pictures and I'm like, that's one healthy looking person. Is there situations where people look at you and then you are healthy, there's no doubt about it, and look at you and then go, like, stroke? What do you mean? Like, you look fine. Do you get that? Do you get that part of the conversation where people just can't wrap their head around how somebody that looks like you is in the shape that you are can be stroke affected?
Yeah. And I think the biggest question is like, what do you mean a stroke? Like an actual like full blown stroke, or like just a TIA? And I'm like, no, I have photos to prove it. 2 massive clots in my brain. Like I still, like, even doctors are fascinated by it, which was quite frustrating when I was younger, because you were like a guinea pig and everyone would just get so excited to be working with this like person. But like I'll still get doctors that will make a joke and be like, what have you done in your like previous life to like get handed these cards and everything? But everybody, I think as soon as you say stroke victim, they expect someone with a drooped face, like everything like that. They just so no, it does, it definitely shocks people. And
They can't connect the dots. In some of the outfits, you're getting ready to go out with your friends or whatever. You're probably at a party. Nobody at a party would be able to tell that you're living with the right side feeling the way that it feels. Nobody would have a clue whatsoever. It's that invisible part of stroke that's sometimes frustrating and challenging for people. Does it?
Yeah, definitely.
Do you like sometimes get frustrated about the fact that you might be having a bad day, but you don't look like somebody who's unwell or gone through?
I think that's the hardest thing. I'm very confident, very social and everything like that. But then I think that was the hardest part after the strokes, people not being able to see what is going on. And I do get I can get quite awkward in a social atmosphere, especially with the vision. So until I know people and feel comfortable, like if we're going to a restaurant or something, I will say, can I just sit at the end of the table where the wall is? Because otherwise I feel rude because I'm constantly turning my head to talk to people. If a waiter comes up on my right side, I get really awkward if I haven't been able to see them. Where that can be quite frustrating. But yeah, in the beginning, I had a lot of anxiety around that. And I actually, to the point, just pulled myself back. I thought I was ready to go out and socialize. And I just, yeah, had a few bad experiences where I just put myself back into my shell, went home, cried, and everything. My family was like, it's okay, pull yourself together. Like, tomorrow's a new day. And yeah, but now it's just, we make jokes about it. Like, once I get to know people, I tell them, I'm like, oh, you know, you can pull faces on my right side. I don't even see you when you're there and everything like that. But yeah, it can become quite frustrating sometimes. But yeah, especially if you run into things, if you don't know they're there. But I mean, if we don't laugh, we cry, right?
Yeah. Running into things would be an interesting situation. I have my vision. I still run into things a lot because sometimes I just can't tell. I can't judge the distance between, say, my shoulder and the door frame. And if I've had a big day and I'm tired, I'll be closer to the door frame than I thought I was, and I'll whack it.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, well, there's a door frame again.
Yeah.
So totally appreciate that. I know what that's like. With the vision thing, does that mean that you're unable to drive? Have you been able to get your license as a result of vision loss?
No. So what I think you have to be in a certain vision field, and I'm okay because I've still got quite a lot. It's just that where if it was more and it was the complete right side, then I wouldn't be able to. Yeah. So very, very grateful for that.
Yeah. It's been 9 years. Those friends that were on that trip with you, do you still see them? Do you keep in touch?
The one that was there pretty much the whole time, I'm still extremely close with her. But unfortunately, I outgrew, I think, the other ones. Yeah.
Well, that happens. Those types of trips tend to
definitely
be that way anyway. It's a good reason to get together with those people and travel because everyone wants to travel. So often people outgrow each other. That's pretty cool. But it's so great to have this other friend of yours still there after all that time. How important is that relationship?
Yeah. No, very, very important. Yeah. And she's literally my number one supporter. My first bodybuilding comp was up in Queensland. She was there. She's just amazing. And yeah, obviously a very special bond there.
Yeah. How did you go in the competition? Did you finish where you wanted, or does it even matter?
Yeah, no, I did. Yeah, I think my first one, I came second, third, and fifth. And then the one that I did last year, I brought home my gold medals, got 3 golds, 1 second. And then another show, I got 3 seconds, 1 fourth. So, yeah, so this year, keep pushing and hopefully bring those golds home again.
Wow. That's pretty cool. And what are they judging? Are they judging? What do they judge at bodybuilding competitions?
Oh, they judge everything. They judge your overall physique. They judge symmetry, which is obviously a big thing for me because obviously my right side years ago was completely different to my left side. Even like my butt cheek on my right side would used to sit down like that. So, and we had to do a lot of one-sided things to get that to catch up to my left side, but they go off everything. They go off your bikini, your stage performance, everything, whole shebang.
I'm very curious to understand what you said about the symmetry, because my left arm is my weakest arm anyway, but it now does look, if people paying attention, it does look different to my right arm. So does my left leg. They're kind of a bit leaner, I suppose that's the only way to describe it. So how hard was it to get your right side to be symmetrical or as close to your other side as possible? Because that's a big job, because it's the side that's the weakest and you have to work at the most.
Again, that initial year, we just worked extremely hard and just really focused on that. But now to the point, I almost concentrate so much on my right side that I'm doing a lot better than what I think, to the point I ignore my left side, which is my good side. My coach last year used to always say, stop concentrating on your right side so much. It's actually doing so well and you're not focusing. You're starting to neglect the left side.
Wow.
So, yeah. And I guess, like everyone used to say, like muscle memory. It's there. You've just got to use it. You've got to activate it. And yeah, if you use it, that all those muscles will reconnect themselves. And yeah.
Well, I love that, because I've had a lot of conversations with people on podcasts now. We've never really spoken about that before. We've never really touched on the asymmetry of one side to the other, except in one of the interviews that I did with a powerlifting stroke survivor, an amazing lady. I'm gonna bring it up now. So for people listening and watching, I'm going to recoveryafterstroke.com/episodes. All the episodes are listed from 1 to 233 at the moment. This is going to be episode 235, I think. And the person who I interviewed, it's Kelly Studebaker. And she has hemiplegia. So I think it might be her right side doesn't work so much. So she does powerlifting with one side of her body. So one side of her body is completely jacked. It's massive, like double the size of your arms.
Yeah.
And the other side is just, like normal, regular stroke affected, not jacked. And she had a ruptured arteriovenous malformation, so a brain hemorrhage.
Yeah.
And I think she was only aged 11. So in her adult life is when she decided to become a power lifter. And it was, again, she wasn't meant to be doing powerlifting. Nobody ever sees you as a possibility of being a power lifter. And she's just gone, stuff it, I'm going to be a power lifter. And she is. And the photo that I've got on the episode thumbnail, you just see she's lifting a weight. It's on an angle, and you just see the ripped shoulder, bicep, and tricep, and it's such a powerful image. I love it. I love sharing that.
How incredible.
Yeah, story of Kelly. She was on episode 106. Man.
Yeah.
I get really excited when I hear people like yourself overcome the trauma, overcome all of the hard stuff, and then achieve something that you're not meant to achieve. And Kelly's one of those people. And so are every other person who I've interviewed on the podcast. I mean, they're the same. And that's what I love about getting people on the podcast, because what you guys do for me is you prove over and over and over again to people who are early on in this journey that we can overcome stuff. We can get better. We can do a lot with our deficits, and we can overcome a lot of the deficits, even though they don't leave us, we can leave them behind. So it's just really cool.
Yeah.
As you can tell, I get really excited. I just love it. So what happened with work? Are you still employed in the same role you're in, or has it changed? Have you moved on? What's going on with that now?
So I went back. We just obviously slowly introduced me back into work, and then yeah, I ended up working with the really challenging kids again, the ones that would always have the tantrums and stuff like that. But in saying that, my patience and my understanding for the children with autism was just out of this world, because I was like, I could understand their frustration, like with
Mm.
writing and everything like that. And it just made me love that job so much more. But I did leave that job. I was in that for 12 years, working at the same school for 7 years. Then went on and did program managing for before and after school care. And now I manage a respite home for people with disabilities that come and stay for short-term accommodation. And I just love it and love helping people. And yeah, and quite a few of my clients, they've got other things going on, but a few of them have had strokes. So we sit down and we have a chat and yeah, talk about all of that. And it's just, yeah, it's nice to be able to do that profession and be able to connect with people as well and just have that understanding. And yeah, yeah.
You really relate to them in a way that a non-stroke survivor can't relate to, and we never want them to, right? You really
Yeah.
understand exactly what it is they're going through, and they would feel a lot better being in an environment with somebody who understands them to that extent, because most people don't understand us. They don't really get it.
Yeah.
And it's giving you that insight to be able to understand frustration about what an autistic child might be experiencing with writing or with expressing themselves. It's
Yeah.
just so cool that you get that understanding, and it makes you better at your job. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Like I wouldn't change it for the world. I absolutely love it.
Congratulations. I really love the way that you've
Thank you.
evolved and overcome a lot of your challenges. When's the next competition?
It'll be near the end of September. So I'm competing in season B. So it'll be, yeah. Yeah.
And then are you training for that the entire time? And then does this sort of training take a more serious sort of turn just before competition? How do you prepare for a competition like that?
So right now we're technically in the building / the bulking phase. So we'll try and increase my food as much as we can, try and build as much lean muscle as we can. And then usually anywhere from about 20 to 15 weeks out from your competition, you start cutting calories and stripping back that body fat percentage, which that's when, yeah, the mental, yeah, stage comes into place. But yeah, yeah. And then you have to, after the competition, you reverse out of it and you have to slowly increase your calories and everything. And then you go back into a building phase to build more muscle. And yeah, yeah.
Wow. What is the one food that you miss the most when you're going into the calorie deficit stage?
I love Krispy Kreme donuts, original glazed. Absolutely obsessed. I talk about them like they're just, I don't know. My sister always goes, "Oh my God, here you go again." And I'm like, no, they just melt in your mouth. And yeah, I love them.
Fair enough. And they do taste delicious. I know exactly what you mean. They're kind of plain and amazing and fabulous at the same time.
Yep. Yep.
I can see the mental struggle when you have to go off them. How many would you eat in the year leading up to them, and then do you go cold turkey on them? It just sounds like you have to start. It sounds as serious as stopping smoking or drinking or stopping alcohol.
Yeah. When you're in prep and you're in the cutting phase, it's very, very strict to the point like I would go, if I go out with friends for dinner, I'll be sitting there eating my container of food. It's
Wow.
no drinking, no like you're 100% have to track all your food to a T. You're mentally exhausted. We laugh about it because you get prep brain where you just your body's in starvation mode. It's fighting because you're burning a lot more calories than your intake. And but I guess it's a sport, and people would call us bodybuilders crazy, but I think you have to be a different breed to do it, but we just love it.
I agree. And do you get hungry and angry at the same time?
You get very, very hangry. You get very, very hangry.
Wow. Hey, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I really appreciate it. Thanks for sharing your story. I think it's going to make a big, it's going to help a lot of people listening feel okay about the situation that they're finding themselves in and overcoming that situation, and then doing amazing things 9-10 years down the road and maybe even further. I really appreciate it. And it's so nice to talk to a fellow Aussie every so often because there's less of us on the planet. There's not so many who I've been able to get on the podcast. So I truly love it. And I'm just so grateful that we could connect and that you were willing to be on the show.
Definitely. Thank you so much for having me. It's been great. Yeah, it was a wonderful experience. I'm glad I could share my stories.
Well, thanks for joining us on today's episode. To learn more about my guests, including links to their social media and other pages, and to download a full transcript of the entire interview, please go to recoveryafterstroke.com/episodes. If you would like to support this podcast, the best way to do that is to leave a 5-star review and a few words about what the show means to you on iTunes and Spotify. If you're watching on YouTube, comment below the video, like the episode, and to get notifications of future episodes, subscribe to the show. Sharing the show with family and friends on social media will make it possible for people who may need this type of content to find it easier, and that may make a massive difference to someone that is on the road to recovery after their own experience with stroke. If you are a stroke survivor with a story to share about your experience, come and join me on the show. The interviews are not scripted. You do not have to plan for them. All you need to do to qualify is be a stroke survivor or care for someone who is a stroke survivor, or you are one of the fabulous people that help stroke survivors on the road to recovery. Just go to recoveryafterstroke.com/contact, fill out the contact form, and as soon as I receive your request, I will respond with more details on how you can choose a time that works for you and me to meet over Zoom. Thanks again for being here and listening. I really appreciate you. See you on the next episode.
Importantly, we present many podcasts designed to give you an insight and understanding into the experiences of other individuals. Opinions and treatment protocols discussed during any podcast are the individual's own experience, and we do not necessarily share the same opinion, nor do we recommend any treatment protocol discussed. All content on this website and any linked blog, podcast, or video material controlled this website or content is created and produced for informational purposes only and is largely based on the personal experience of Bill Gassiamis. The content is intended to complement your medical treatment and support healing. It is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice and should not be relied on as health advice. The information is general and may not be suitable for your personal injuries, circumstances, or health objectives. Do not use our content as a standalone resource to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease for therapeutic purposes or as a substitute for the advice of a health professional. Never delay seeking advice or disregard the advice of a medical professional, your doctor, or your rehabilitation rehabilitation program based on our content. If you have any questions or concerns about your health or medical condition, please seek guidance from a doctor or other medical professional. If you are experiencing a health emergency or think you might be, call 000 if in Australia, or your local emergency number immediately for emergency assistance, or go to the nearest hospital emergency department. Medical information changes constantly. While we aim to provide current, quality information in our content, we do not provide any guarantees and assume no legal liability or responsibility for the accuracy, currency, or completeness of the content. If you choose to rely on any information within our content, you do so solely at your own risk. We are careful with links we provide. However, third-party links from our website are followed at your own risk, and we are not responsible for any information you find there.